Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. I have a privilege today to welcome a great leader and a guest, somebody that I was so much looking forward to have. I have so many questions to ask and share so much value today. And I'm privileged to welcome Lydia Hurlbut. Lydia, thank you for joining us today and welcome on The Leaders Who Care.
I am so excited to be here, Marian, and thank you for having me, for inviting me. It's going to be awesome.
You are the CEO of the Filmmakers Academy, and I always, I love movies and I love cinema so much, and I always think, what does it take to make an extraordinary movie? And I thought, wow, Lydia can tell us so much about it.
Well, it takes an awful lot. It takes a lot of creativity, first of all. Having an amazing story to tell, I think, is the foundation for everything. And developing that story through characters that people relate to and they love. The best movies have characters that you really can't stand. You know, when you get that visceral emotion. And it takes a lot of planning, a great crew, amazing actors, and sound design is critical, and editing and color correction. So there's so many different pieces that go into making feature films, shorts, any sort of production. It's really exciting. And I think it's the synergy of that group coming together to deliver something that everybody all believes in.
Well, as probably the listeners already realizing, you're already sharing an introduction because that's what you're passionate about.
Yes.
Doing. And really, how did you get into that, Lydia? What really led you to that path?
Honestly, it was completely by default, Marian, because if you had ever told me that I would be in the role that I'm in right now, I would have said that you were crazy. So I started out my life as a nurse, and I was a pediatric nurse. I kind of fell into nursing because I was just a natural caregiver, and I had a mom who was very ill. And so I was raised by my dad as a single parent. And because I've always been a caregiver, nursing was natural. And I love kids. So I went into pediatrics. And then that kind of ballooned into forensics because I wanted to be more challenged. And I have been fascinated by people and the brain and how the brain works. So then I got a master's in forensics and became a sexual assault nurse examiner. And from there, I did life coaching because I had kids and I wanted to stay home and be able to do something that allowed flexibility and not having to go to the emergency room at 3:00 in the morning anymore. So I became a life coach, and then I studied business and marketing. And it was my dad who said to me, it's great that you're helping other people build their own businesses through all of this, but why don't you build something for yourself? And that is when the light bulb went off. And I thought, wow, Shane my husband who's a cinematographer, has a God-given talent in lighting. And
one of the best.
Thank you. And cinematography. And so let's kind of talk about what he does. And that's how it all started. Very simply, very pure, our way of giving back. And that was in 2009. With the blog, and then it just kind of blossomed from there with people asking for more.
Wow, so in that industry, and the filmmaking is known for insane working hours. It's really so challenging to make a production, and sometimes they even refer when you earn money, like, wow, they're like blood money type of thing. Really, what is the care? What is the care? How does care come into that process? And because
Right.
I know you love abundance, and that's another area that we would love to touch on.
Mm.
But how does that come into your values and belief?
Yeah. So the film industry traditionally has been relentless with working hours, with expectations, with millions of dollars on the line every day. And the focus has really been on the financial benefit of getting the product done. I think, and the money, getting the most out of squeezing the most out of everything you can possibly do. I think with the pandemic, that is changing. And I'm really happy to say that wouldn't it be great if everybody could have a set like Clint Eastwood does, where he does 8-hour days. He makes extraordinary products. He has people working at their best and their most efficient possible way of doing their job because the planning has been so extraordinary. So I think we're getting there. And I think the self-care is where the piece that is the most important for people. So you must have vigilant and relentless self-care. And it's up to the individual to do it. And hopefully one day that will be the norm on set too. That's my vision. But I think it's really taking extra care of yourself when so much is being demanded of you and the expectation of delivery is fierce. So I would say meditating, getting as much sleep as you can, and doing snippets of working out. I know that, a lot of people we're friends with get up an hour before set call and they work out. They go for a run. They do some sort of in-hotel workout or wherever they're staying. So whether you're doing that at night or in the morning, even for just 15 minutes, I think the biggest thing about self-care is just squeaking it in, especially when you have such an intense work schedule, and then being really good to yourself on the days when you're down and not trying to cram in a lot of extras, but just kind of filling up your own cup.
No, thank you so much. And this is really, from leadership perspective, what does caring leadership means to you personally, Lydia? And because that's the self-care is important, but how could leaders take care of others?
Yes. So caring is everything. Compassion is everything in my mind in leadership. And the way that it starts is listening. So you go in with your heart and you have an intention for the day that it's going to be the best, most extraordinary day, even though obstacles are going to be thrown your way. Obstacles are going to come in filmmaking, with the weather, with schedule changes, with somebody getting sick, with unexpected gear problems. There's so many obstacles that come, but it's the way that you handle the obstacles and it's the way that you move through those obstacles to be a leader for your team. So I think very intense listening, trusting your team members, and also having them in positions that they're really passionate about and they want to deliver for you, to do their best. So it's expertise and passion and growth and really a team. I have the best team in the world right now. At Filmmakers Academy, I have an extraordinary team, and my team makes me shine every single day and makes the business shine. And the reason for that is they have freedom to execute on decisions. I trust them. They love what they do. They're in the right position of leadership for them. They know where the business is going because we have, our exact goals set out, and we also have our core values in place. All of these things are absolutely critical because everything comes from intention. So if our intention is to deliver the best possibly most exciting educational content for filmmakers that teaches you what you didn't learn in film school and kind of blends that with Hollywood set experience, then we know we have to have great mentors and mentoring educators for our people. We have to listen deeply to what our members want and really build that educational foundation from that. So there's so many factors that go into great leadership, but I think the three biggest ones that I could say are really understanding from a core values standpoint what the intention of the business is, and then having the right team in place who are set up for success and have a passion that is as great as yours is. And you can see I'm tripping up on my words because I'm so excited about this. And then really having the planning in place and whether it's pre-production planning for us, we always plan and then we have a rehearsal day and then we do a shoot. That's not always possible. In education it is, but in the real world it's not. But really setting yourself up for success with the planning and execution so that people don't feel like they're failing when it's not their fault.
Wow. This was a lesson for leadership, Leah, in just a few minutes. You summarized very well, since this is an area I'm deeply passionate about. What does it take to set up a company right from the get-go?
Wow.
No, you just summarized it. You just summarized.
Okay, good. Oh, I thought you wanted me
to summarize.
No,
you just summarized. What does it take? Because you had the clear vision. You really mentioned of where you're heading, the planning. Really the way the company is having, what is their position in the right seats.
Yes.
And that takes emotional intelligence, that takes listening to them, that takes understanding. All of those things are so important. And when you have a vision, when you have a clear expectation,
yes,
because that's important to know what you expect, how you measure success. When you free people or enable people, as you said, I love what you said, setting up people for success is care. It's really putting them there, and that makes a profound difference, because then when you look for exceptionally gifted people to join your team, the first thing they look at is who is the leader, what's their vision, do they care, and who is the team, what's the problem we're solving, what are the values we share. So these things are so important, and
yes.
It was refreshing to hear how you started.
Well, good. I thought you were going to ask me a follow-up question to that. So I thought, okay. Thank you, Marian.
You have done it. And I just saying that this is so, it comes naturally to you, because if probably somebody asked you to do this, you probably wouldn't have done it, but you summarize it in the same way, but you actually living that. And that's, to me, is carrying leadership. So really, what a great example. I know you guys are going places. Just listening to what you're telling me, I feel really a great honor and respect of what you guys doing.
Well, thank you so much. And that honestly touches my heart. And one thing that follows along with that I did not mention, I am absolutely obsessed with health and wellness. I'm a Reiki practitioner. That was kind of my pandemic thing that I did for myself as my gift to myself for wellness and to keep that journey going, because I love healing. And I think that energy is something that is one of the undervalued leadership pieces. And that comes from really tuning in and sensing through your intuition what's going on with your people or with your team before you even enter a room, because you can feel energy. We're energetic beings, and our energies kind of vibrate off of one another. So we have physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, our aura, our boundary layer energy. And I think the energy is able to be shifted with wisdom from a leader if it's becoming very negative, if it's becoming stale, if it's not serving the business in whatever way. And so I really focus a lot on energy and on doing fun little things with my team to keep that bond, to keep the positivity, to lighten it up, whether it's with humor, with a great story, taking people miniature golfing on a day off or something, just because I'm feeling like people are too stressed or they're They're needing some fun diversion. And I think that that's also your job as a leader, is to really be in tune with your team very carefully and then pivot. Because I think where people get into trouble is they understand the agenda and they keep forcing an agenda that maybe isn't right and maybe needs to be pivoted or tweaked a little bit. And I can give a very specific example of this because I think examples really help. So we were on a shoot and it just was not coming together, this educational shoot. And it was no fault of the educator. What had happened was the educator was pressuring themselves and too much in their head and, thinking that they just weren't getting the words out right and that they weren't delivering the value. And so we just hit the stop button and said, okay, you know what? We're going to have lunch early. We're going to shift the schedule. This person clearly needs a break because they're just not in their flow. And we started telling stories, from our lives and just kind of sat around in a group and people were laughing like crazy and just having so much fun at lunch. As a result of that, we took about 45 minutes down and thought, wow, okay, we're going to be even more pressured in the afternoon because, we really have missed a few hours of our morning shoot now. I'm telling you, the amount that we covered in the afternoon was extraordinary because the person was relaxed. They had laughed. Laughing, dancing, singing are the greatest ways to decrease stress. And they were in their zone. They got in the zone. They delivered. We did it in half the time, ended the day early, had tons of time to cover the social media blurbs because we always do tips for social media. And it was awesome. And so the day started as kind of a nail biting, oh my God, how are we going to get this? And how can we make this work? And then the team was able to come together and say, you know what, we just need to hit the full stop button and pivot, which is what we did. Now it's easy for us, right? Because we're small but mighty and we have the ability to do that. On a huge movie set, it's kind of, you've got to grind through and figure out a different way to execute. But I'm just sharing that because I think so many times we get in our own way and we stop ourselves from being who we are, right? Your genius comes through you, right? It's you exude it. It's who you are. And so I think just getting out of your own way, not overthinking it, and realizing that sometimes it's going to be just the day that it is, and it's not going to be the greatest day. And all that you can control over that is your attitude, because when everything goes wrong, you can't control the external circumstances, but you don't have to have a compounded problem, because a compounded problem comes when you react in the wrong way, right? And so then you have a double shot of a problem. So I think it's just really our mental reaction to whatever's going on around us.
I love that. Well, what a great example. And I was also thinking, because sometimes when you talk about care, it may be seen as would we get things done? And you just given a great example how people can get things done and be really productive. And I believe there's so much more we can do. And
Yes.
I was even thinking when you said a large movie set, what be the situation? And I can understand, because in a large production, you have so many other people waiting. So you have to find a different way, I guess. But it's so important as a leader to make sure you understand the energy and how you could recharge, help take care of your people. And thank you for sharing that example, Lydia. That seems like you guys are doing some great activities. And since we talk about Filmmaking Academy and we talk about really education, and that's another area I'm deeply passionate about.
Yes.
I was just thinking of what are your take on, especially you mentioned adding value and doing tips and videos, content that you don't normally learn in a traditional way. So what what is that first, and what's the future of education and learning in art, especially? That in your eyes, what do you see and you do that is not delivered through the traditional channels, and why not? Why couldn't that become through the main channels?
Wow, that's a big question, Marian. Okay, let me try to break that down a little bit. So I think education is changing, and education, especially at the higher levels of education, really does need to change. And so what's exciting about the pandemic is that it really has caused this huge focus to be on how do we deliver value in education in a variety of ways. I think it caused a lot of pain, clearly, for teachers and students and the people that need to learn in person, and in person is always valuable. And especially in the world of filmmaking, you need the in-person to get to touch the gear and to really understand how it works and to understand your mistakes so that you can learn from those and keep moving forward. And so part of what we try to do is deliver opportunities for our members to get hands-on in a variety of ways, to get hands-on with one another through, referring each other, crewing up together, to get hands-on with us when it's possible. We've done workshops. It's been a while, but we have done in-person workshops. We've shifted our focus a lot more to the online for a variety of reasons. And that is, I view us in the broad scheme of education as something that is very practical that you do not necessarily learn in film school. So we are kind of an adjunct to film school, or after you finish film school, then you would come on our platform. And the reason for that is because we have mentoring, where you could do one-on-one mentoring if you have a specific job or you have something that you really need time and energy for. But there's also a variety of layers of mentoring within our platform. So we have a community section on our app. You can ask questions and get direct responses from our educational mentors. So I really don't see us as a replacement for film school, because school is important, because school makes you a better person, and you need the theory and foundation of school, right, of college. But I think the problem with that is that the what is forged on set, if you will, all of the 20 or 30 years that a lot of our mentors have in the trial and error on set, that's really what we're sharing, what you need to know when you walk on a film set, cutting to the chase, to set you up for success. And, so that is kind of the differentiation of traditional school and then what we give. I think it's also that we have a really exciting free section, so you can kind of check it out and see, to make sure it's right for you, to make sure you like it. And then you can choose, your all access membership. So in my mind, learning is lifelong. And I feel that the industry changes so quickly with technology, with new gear coming out. It's very difficult to keep up with it all by yourself. And it's through the community. It is through the mentoring. It's through watching what other people are trying on their sets, what they're using, the cameras, the lenses, the lighting, how editing techniques are changing, color correction, all of these things filmmakers do need to know. And whether you are just starting out and, you're kind of a freelancer in the indie world, or you've been doing it for a really long time and you just kind of want to keep frosty in your skill set, that's kind of the audience we serve. And so we need to be diverse.
Wow, that's first of all, what a great value you mentioned here. How to cut to the chase, and trial and error. Maybe you can save a lot of time. Of course, that doesn't mean you'll be easy for you. You still have your hard moments. but being intentional and deliberate and going straight to the core or the most important in the field you want to learn, it's of great value. That's what I would see when I look at content. How valuable it is, what does it share, and how is it presented, and it's shared as well.
Yes. And I think the other thing, Marian, if I can just add, in terms of the future of where filmmaking is going, because I've really analyzed this a lot, because remaining relevant is one of the most important things a business needs to do. But for us, it's one of the most important things that we need to do, because there's a lot of noise. And when I say noise, there's so much free on the internet. And it's really understanding about trusting the source and being, the model that people could go to and say, wow, I know in my limited amount of time, because time is our greatest resource. And I feel like people are pulled in 100 million directions with their time. So, when you have a few minutes in your day to check a source, it's such an obligation for us to deliver the best possible content in the way that people want to consume it. And believe me, we're still learning. I mean, our members are teaching us every single day about how they want to consume our content and what they want and what is necessary for them. I think the biggest thing that we've noticed is having an app is so great, because you can take that on set with you. It's something we wanted for a long time, and we finally were able to get it over the goal line and achieve it. And really reference something, right? So it's, if you watch something the night before because you wanted to brush up on a skill such as green screen or how to light day exteriors or something, being able to go back to that lesson and really, or a course, and really look at it, on your lunch break or whenever you have a minute, just to help your speed and efficiency is huge. So I think that a lot of the little details that our members are saying, oh, we wish you had that, or, oh, we wanted that. Again, we're trying to put in, listen to that, and constantly every single year up our game as a business, because that's our job, right? We never settle. I never at the end of the day think, woo, I've arrived, ever. I'm constantly in,
You're right.
Where am I going? Right?
You're right. Yeah. It is a lifelong learning, and you can always do better. Never satisfy, as we say. When it comes down to, you mentioned obviously the abundance, you mentioned to the well-being aspect. How do you manage personal life with business? I mean, it's a life balance, I guess. It's not work or personal. It's a life balance as a whole. But how do you balance that? How do you have this presence? Switching is one thing I personally find sometimes challenging, how to switch from one thing to another very quickly, because you can be in a room, but you might be thinking of something else. And that's giving somebody your undivided attention is a gift. It's really of great care as well. So how do you do that, you personally, and any strategies that you might share?
Absolutely. So I think for me personally, it's very challenging some days, to be honest with you. I think that I try to set up, okay, let me back up. I always start my day with meditation every single day. And if I don't meditate, I feel off for my day and I feel out of balance. I feel like my focus isn't as good. My synergy efficiency is not as good. I've had to become very, very efficient as a leader. And the reason for that is because Shane, also my husband, also shoots feature films and is gone from the household for 4 to 6 months out of every single year, and sometimes as long as 11 months, depending on the year. So we have two kids who are now amazing adults, but when I started this business, my son was in kindergarten and my daughter was in the 4th grade. So I was juggling school runs and I had a very few hours where I had to really laser focus in and do whatever the business required. That has changed over time. But I think because I've always, had kids that I've been juggling, and now with the pandemic, parents that have moved in with us in senior care, I've always trained my team that you have me, but I'm here and I'm gone. I'm here and I'm gone, because if a crisis happens, if somebody falls, if there's a field trip somewhere, so that's kind of how it's been built. And that leads to really extreme efficiency for me, in that I only have a limited number of hours in my day, and I better make the most of it. And they better be really extraordinary hours. The other thing that I do is I really make sure that my time is balanced between things that are in the business and things that move the business forward. Because we could get, as a business leader, you can drown in meetings. And then all of a sudden, all the planning and the projections and it's my job to have the huge vision of 3 to 5 years out. Where's the business going? So that I can let the team know those things and actually brainstorm with them. And then we break it down into quarterly goals. And if I'm too much in my business doing the work of the business, then I have absolutely no time for where is the business going and who can we joint venture partner with and align to keep growing. So I really very carefully dedicate time to that. And I think scheduling is so important. It's also taking breaks in your day. If I'm doing too much budgeting and number crunching and figuring out projected budgets and how many members and then my brain all of a sudden starts to have steam and I lose efficiency. I can only stay in numbers for so long. And then I realize I need to run up and down my back stairs for 20 times. I need to take 15 minutes out and just take a yoga class online or something, because I realize I internally modulate, if that makes sense. I realize when I am losing ground that I need to just stop and not try to keep pushing, because the quality of my work will really go down and then I'll start making mistakes. So that's the beauty and the flexibility of being your own boss and controlling your own schedule, is that you really have to understand your own efficiency and when you need a break, and then come back to it when your brain is fresher. It's also knowing when you are at your best. There's a certain time of day that I'm at my best for writing, and that is first thing in the morning. I've meditated. My ideas are clear. So if I have to do an article, if I have to prepare for a podcast or something where I need to be laser focused and articulate, I do that first thing in the morning, because that's when my brain is at its best. So I think it's a combination of knowing yourself, knowing the demands of your business, and understanding how the brain functions optimally, right? With I have a lot of support for myself. Other than exercise, meditation, and trying to really eat well. Diet's a huge part of it, but I get tons of sleep. I take supplements to help my brain. I do the genius mushrooms and all sorts of things to really help me be at my best, so that I can deliver what is required. Because some days it is daunting. It's daunting, Marian. And I think it's not minimizing. It's really just saying, okay, wow, today was something. And it's what comes at us as a leader, right? Like just the weight of the decisions that you're making, because they have a ripple effect. And so I think it's really kind of keeping everything in perspective. And also at the end of the day, the last thing I want to say on this is having a downtime routine. I spend my evenings reading. I love reading. Reading is so relaxing to me. And some evenings I'll meditate. If my nervous system, and I can feel it, I can sense it. If I'm feeling wound, I realize wow, one meditation wasn't enough for the day today. And I need to do something in the evening just to calm my nervous system down.
Well, and we talk about some of the areas of life and abundance. And we wonder, okay, if you look at if we try to master all areas of our life, and we all, I guess, as human beings want to excel in as many of them as possible. That's health, a great career, wealth, financial abundance, great family, travel, joy. It's, really impact to a community and so forth. And it's, I guess a lot of people accepting the fact that you cannot, but I know you can. I know people have done it. What is your take on that? How can you have abundance in all areas of your lives, and what's your experience in making some of, if not all of them, happen?
Exactly. Okay, so my feeling is, if you have life coaching has a wonderful wheel. It's the wheel of life. And if you think of the wheel of life or a pie, and you divide it into all of the areas that are meaningful to you, and this goes back to your core values, but your spirituality, and we don't have to go through them all, but I'll just list maybe 5 and you get the idea. As you said, your family, your friendships, your body and exercise, your work balance, your work life, all of those things. And you rate them when you do coaching with somebody from 0 all the way to 10, and 10 being the best. Can all areas of that wheel be at a 10? I don't think so. I think that is an unrealistic setup. Okay. I think a much healthier way to think about it, because I think in order to have all areas of a 10, you would need to be a robot and not sleep much. And so I think that at times, a number of areas could be at a 10 where you're just knocking it out, but then other parts of your pie may suffer a little bit, truthfully. And I think it's really about a flow, because I think perfect balance is unachievable. And I think I don't want to say, oh yes, that's possible, because that's really, I believe, inauthentic and untrue. And what I will say is that there's certain times in my personal life that work overtakes, and my son says to me, Mom, why are you working all the time? I never see you. Can we please hang out? And I say, absolutely, Miles, let's set a date. Let's figure it out right now. And then that goes into my calendar, and that's my mental note. My kids are kind of my checks and balances, and we all need checks and balances, right? Because work can become all consuming. And then all of a sudden you're burned out, miserable, have no friends, and haven't seen your family in 3 years, and your body gets sick, truthfully. And I think that our bodies give us signals, or there are people in our lives that are our checks and balances. And on a very personal note, in 2006, I was very out of balance. I was trying to be all things to all people. And Shane at that time was working on Terminator Salvation. So he was gone for 11 months. My kids were little. They had had illnesses, croup and, bronchitis. And my daughter had pneumonia. It was, that time of year when everything was going around. And I ended up with spinal meningitis, viral spinal meningitis, not able to take care of my children. My husband not able to, I'm sorry, he was on We Are Marshall at that point, but he was gone for 6 months, and he wasn't able to come home to help because his dad simultaneously was in the intensive care, and they thought that he was going to die during that time period. So Shane had a horrible, impossible position. So he was in the ICU with his father when I all of a sudden broke out with spinal meningitis. And it was like the wheels came off in our lives. And I realized, I think the greatest lesson from that, and I'm so grateful to be healthy after that intense health scare, was that I had put myself last on the list. I didn't have self-care going. I wasn't prioritizing myself, and I was doing way too much. I was doing way too much. So this is where I'm saying you can attempt to do everything, But I don't think that leads to joy and happiness. I think what really leads to joy and happiness is being in flow and noticing where you maybe need to give a little more attention and where you need to back off. And again, it's the scales of life, right? And I think having those people in your life that kind of give you a nudge and say, you know what, you're working a little bit too hard. I think that we need to go play and go. My friend did that for me. She's like, Lydia, you're working way too much. You need to take a day off. And I'm going to land on your doorstep to make sure that you do that. Right. And I love that because here I am preaching it, but we all fall into our own traps. And so you need to have those people in your lives to help regroup and recenter you so that you remain the best, healthiest version of yourself.
Thank you so much for sharing. Really, that's so profound. And often I see when you go in crisis, you start to realize how important is this.
Yes.
And the lessons, listen to your body, the signals, study yourself, learn about what your body needs are, and also mental, physical, spiritual, to really take better care. Because if you're not around, you can't take care of others. It's as you mentioned, maybe you may actually, that is care for your family too, because then they will not have to worry about you. And that's
exactly.
really a great way of looking at it. So please do take care of each one of you guys, whoever's listening, and make a priority of what your needs are, whether this is learning, whether this is find out what recharges you, find out what excites you, which is the question I'm going to ask. What excites you these days, Lydia? What are the things that sets your heart on fire?
On fire. Okay. So I am very excited about inspiring and healing. I would say that those two areas, I love inspiring and sharing wisdom with people, and I love healing. Healing is my God-given, and I'm so grateful to have it, talent, my jam. So, Reiki has been such a journey for me, and, kind of having that gift come through me. I don't give it. It's something that comes through me to others and their body and what they are, what they need to heal within themselves, essentially, is Reiki. So it's just a healing energy. I love leading. I love being a leader. And as I said, I have the most, my team inspires me. That they are extraordinary humans, and I love hanging out with them. And so that has been amazing. I think I am turned on right now really professionally in terms of how do I intellectually challenge myself. I'm studying the brain. And I know that that's really crazy for a lot of people, but I love people and I'm fascinated by how they work. And I'm reading this great book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's on how we hold trauma and stress in our bodies. And it's really fascinating, and how the brain gets in feedback loops and how to get it out of that traumatic loop. So when I have free time, I love this stuff. And I think it's, my nursing background, my health background, I love what makes people tick. And really understanding that. And obviously I love filmmakers. So I feel like if I can impart all of this to help filmmakers, because it's a very stressful job. And I think I've always studied stress going back 30 years now, and how to combat stress. I used to actually design programs for sexual assault investigators on how to prevent burnout. I love that. That's my thing.
Wonderful. We have a question from a dear friend, Stian. Lydia, what is a new empowering belief or leadership lesson you learned in the past 24 months?
An empowering belief. Okay. So I think the past 24 months, because we went into the pandemic again, and I think the best lesson that I learned is to fearlessly believe in what you're creating and move forward no matter what the circumstances that you happen to be faced with, and not get caught up in the fear and the worry, because fear is an energy drainer, and it actually gets our brains into a habit loop that is a very negative fear-based loop. And I think my biggest lesson is to recognize, ooh, I'm moving into that really bad habit that I do, maybe of getting worried about the outcome. You know, how will we need a new office space. It has to be bigger. We've outgrown our space. Wow, it's expensive right now. How will we get there? How will that happen? Right? Can we continue to afford it for a longer lease time period? All of these things go through your mind as the leader. Is that a wise move to take on an office space now? And so I think to get curious is the biggest thing that I would say, and to recognize, wow, I'm getting into that habit loop. And then to really get quiet and ask for the answer and listen to just what comes in that is pure. You know, our intuition tells us so much, right? And no matter how wise you are, we forget to listen to our intuition. It's that gut knowing. And I think it's asking the question and then really listening to your gut. So getting curious, not getting in a repetitive trap of a habit loop, and then listening to that pure intuition, because we run around and don't get quiet enough. And you feel like I take time to make decisions. I don't rush. If I feel pressured, I will say no, because I need the time to think it through and to really be wise. So it's not also getting into auto mode and just being like, okay, great, let's get the space. And I told the realtors that I'm working with, don't pressure me. I'm feeling pressured and rushed. And so I will automatically say no if you pressure and rush me right now, versus letting me have time to think about it, to sleep on it, to really get quiet and make sure that this is the right move. And then I will say yes if it's right and no if it's not.
I love it. Yeah, it was been such a honor to have you, and so much value you're sharing. A final question on the session. What is your wish for a better future? If there's one thing you would love to see for our better future, what would that be?
My wish for the future right now for filmmakers and for everybody is that there's just more love and caring and compassion in the world. I feel like we're really in a time right now where everybody is divisive and angry and reactive. And the pandemic has had a lot of negative effects on people's mental habits and mental state. And we see it in depression and suicide rates climbing. And I think that we all just need to feel loved and to feel accepted and to not be judged. We're in a really judgy kind of yucky, judgy time period. And I don't like judgment. I really try not to judge. I may disagree vehemently with the choice somebody makes, but then again, it's their choice to make, and it's getting curious on what is impacting them in that way and not judging. Because the minute that you judge, the walls come down, and you know, it creates blocks and prevents dialogue. And so I think that we need to be gentle with each other, to love each other, to try to find some understanding and compassion, and to know that you may disagree, but you know, all we need is love. The world needs more love and acceptance.
Thank you so much. I just want to, you touched on a string here, and I feel for all those people out there that are having a depression or feeling really down, and I know what it is to go through a very difficult moment, about to lose your relative, or really your child being sick, or really going through some financial troubles or businesses. I understand some of this, and of course, some people have really significant traumas. And for those actually who are listening, we live in even though despite all the hardship we had to go through in the last 2 years, especially with the pandemic, we still a lot of goodness is coming, and we still live in the best time ever in our really history. We have opportunities that we can do. Of course, I relate to what you said. There's a lot of choice and noise. But when you self-discover, start with, when you're in a really difficult moment, start to self-discover who you really are. Going down your strengths, go around and find out what sets your heart on fire, find out your passions, find out what the other people think of you. What's your personal brand? And people say, I don't have a personal brand. Of course you do. You ask your 3 friends or
Yes.
3 or 4 people around what they think of you, and then find out what their perception about you is, right or not. And really go deep down and say what I want to be known for. So that's what I think of me. This is where I am, but this is what I want to become. Then you start to really connect. When you're in a really difficult moment, your heart and mind is not aligned, or in cross motivation, take your favorite drink, sit down, and invite your heart and mind for a coffee or drink, and just say, settle, sort out what can we do here, really.
And that, I love that, Marian, because and the last thing I want to do is be a Debbie Downer at all. I'm also very much a realist, and I want to inspire people, right? And I think that journaling and getting quiet with yourself and really figuring out who are you in the world, right? Ask yourself the questions, who are you? And what is important to you, right? And then if what you're doing doesn't align with that, then you need to make a few changes in where you're going, because we all have individual unique gifts and love and genius. We have our own internal, God-given talent, whatever you want to call it, something that comes so naturally to you that you don't even realize you're doing it. Time slips away. And what you're really good at, or what your parents, constantly ask you to help them with, or what your friends point out. And that is where we all need to be spending most of our time. And if we're not, that makes us miserable. And because we're not doing what we love. And so I think it's really and that's where having the people to hold you accountable, or to notice. I notice people, I notice subtle little things. And what stands out the most is that if they're unhappy in some way, right? Because again, your energy precedes you into a room. Yes. And you can tell if somebody's, very Eeyore-like, right? From Winnie the Pooh. And so I think we really must, hold and it's finding little things to look forward to, and the beautiful parts of the day, the gratitude, right? The gratitude for the little tiny things. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reminding us of all those wonderful things and lessons. And for those of you who are in a good state, in a good shape, spread that inspiration and positivity. Give a smile. Give a good word to someone. Spend 5 minutes. You never know who you're talking to. Maybe that person is considering to take their own life. Spending that 5 minutes of inspiration could make a difference to someone's life. Literally, could make someone's happier day. So I really relate a lot to that, and thank you for sharing this wonderful wisdom and advices, Lydia. Really, I can tell you're going places, you're doing so many great things. Keep doing those things.
Thank you.
And spreading those, really now I got inspired to go into Filmmakers Academy. I mean, the courses, I never thought I would be in movie production, and And now I'm actually inspired of what you said. So
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for creating this platform. I'm just so grateful to you all, because I think caring leadership is something that I'm so passionate about, and I want to learn from other leaders. And I've listened to past episodes, and they're fascinating. I always take something away. So I think, the podcast platform is so wonderful because you can listen wherever you are while you're working, or, driving, or in your office, and or your dose of inspiration in the evening before you go to bed when you're trying to wind down your nervous system, right? It's what a wonderful way to to end the day too.
thank you. It's really inspired to share that positivity, inspiration, and wisdom from those leaders who care, from personal experience. Really, it's when you go through hardships and difficult moments, you see what really matters, and that's
Yes.
something which touched the string with us and is really important. And we wanted to give stage to exactly those leaders who care and make the world a better place. It could be, you could touch one person's life. You've lived. It's not like going change the whole world. You're making a difference. Lydia, thank you so much, and God bless you and your family, and really thank you for being part of the Leaders Who Care.
Oh, and Marian, thank you so much, and your entire team. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.